Stunning, isn't it? This is a village just about 8 kilometres north of Sheffield city centre. With a population of just over 4,000 people, this is a place that people call a wonderful home, but also is a lovely rural retreat for people from Sheffield and across the country. It has a rich and varied history, ranging from quarrying to sword dancing. Welcome to Grenoside. We're at the top of Jawbone Hill, or as it's also known, Whalejaw Hill. Now it gets its name from the fact that it bends round in the shape of a jawbone, specifically a whale jaw. This odd looking thing is the Burly Stone. Now this gets its name from the fact that it overlooks Burly Edge. It was erected as a boundary stone and is over 900 years old. Then behind me there's the Memorial Stone, which was erected in 1951. It's also known as the Festival Stone, as it was erected in the year of the Festival of Britain. Here, 816 feet above sea level, overlooking the Don Valley, you see all walks of life: nature, industry, homes. This is truly a remarkable view.
Grenoside, like most of Sheffield, was renowned for its industry. Quite uniquely though, Grenoside was renowned for its quarrying.
Grenoside stone was mined for centuries. With the increase in population in Sheffield, there was an increase in demand for housing and thus an increase in demand for local quarrying. Woodside Lane was believed to have been built to house the new quarry workers. In fact, up until the early 1800s, a lot of the buildings here in Grenoside used locally quarried stone. That stone, however, wasn't just used for buildings, it was also used to make things such as grindstones. In 1860, there was a reported 5 quarries here in Grenoside, with one being owned by Joseph Swift and Thomas Beaver.
In 1906, Beaver's quarry employed around 150 men and boys. Quarrying lasted in Grenoside until 1939, with the last one closed situated here on Norfolk Hill. However, quarrying wasn't the only industry to thrive in Grenoside.
Grenoside is thought to get its name from the Anglo-Saxons. Greyfan is an Old English word meaning quarry. The O comes from the Viking word for hill, and side comes from the English word, well, side. Although it's been contracted and amalgamated over the years, Grenoside is thought to roughly mean quarried hillside. Now, quarrying has been an exceptionally important industry here for over 1,000 years, with remnants of it still visible in nearby woods. But there is also evidence of other prominent industries here as well.
Topside and Woodside Lane both have surviving buildings from the file cutting industry.
Thanks to Sheffield's rivers, the city has had many water-based workshops for centuries, paving the way for its iconic and most memorable metal-based industries. Thus, the surrounding areas also formed their own metal-based trades too. File cutting was particularly prominent here in Grenoside. File cutting works like this. You would have a stone called a scythe or a workstation that was often made of Grenoside sandstone. The metal would then be placed on top of it and cut with a hammer and chisel.
Cutlery too was a long-standing industry in Sheffield, with evidence dating back to the late 13th century.
Prior to this, nail making formed a large part of South Yorkshire's industrial economy. However, this industry started to die out in the 1800s and it was to be replaced by cutlery making. Cutlery formed a large part of Grenoside's story as well. William Smith and his son Henry were both renowned cutlers and they both came from Grenoside. There are a lot of renowned industrial names that came from the Chapel Green area, with the Smiths being well known from Grenoside. However, they weren't the only people from around here.
Here on Lump Lane was Grenoside's first endowed school. Samuel Walker was schoolmaster of this first endowed school, although it is for his industry that he was most known for.
Son of a nail-maker and a farmer, and one of 6 children, Samuel Walker founded one of the wealthiest and most prominent businesses in South Yorkshire. It all started from their back garden in 1741, where they had a forge on their farm, right here in Grenoside. They then built a furnace in the smithy in their cottage, where they mastered iron production.
By 1745, they were making around 5 tons of goods every year. This is the time when they moved to Masborough and began their empire.
By the end of 1746, they had a casting house built at Masborough. By 1750, they had a furnace at Masborough and one here at Grenoside too. By 1754, the River Don was suitable for transport to one of Britain's most powerful and prominent shipping and transport links, the Humber Estuary. Then, the Howard family, owners of the Effingham estates, allowed them to use some of their land. This land at Masborough was to be home to one of the greatest iron foundries in the country.
They expanded their industry to Liverpool, Newcastle, London, as well as other metals such as lead and steel.
They made the iron that was used in the Southwark Bridge in London and the iron in the bridge at Staines as well. It was for their cannons, however, that they really gained their fame. Local aristocrat Charles Watson Wentworth, who resided at Wentworth Woodhouse, was also the first Prime Minister from Yorkshire. He secured them the contract to make the cannons for the British in the American Wars of Independence and the wars with the French. In fact, 80 of the 105 cannons aboard the HMS Victory, the ship that Nelson used in the 1805 Battle of Trafalgar, were all made by Walkers. All of this started from the master of the first endowed school here at Grenoside.
There's also a lot of history in Grenoside regarding the Second World War.
Just down the road is Grenicide Crematorium, which was opened in 1998. Across from there, in fields on Jawbone Hill, there are some abandoned Second World War structures. This used to be an anti-aircraft battery. Anti-aircraft batteries were generally staffed by men and women, and they usually were armed with QF 3.7-inch guns. This one here was constructed between 1939 and 1940, and its primary purpose was to protect Sheffield from heavy bombers. In fact, Grenoside, especially on that hill, was a prime location for an anti-aircraft gun, as it has such an elevated position.
However, the site didn't fall into disarray for some time here at Grenoside.
Following the Second World War, the site was used by LEP Air Services, a branch of LEP Transport. Apparently, there was one lorry driver who regularly made stops there, a certain Peter Sutcliffe, although you may know him better as the Yorkshire Ripper.
The site may still have been used, but there were other reminders of the war here too.
The Grenicide War Memorial was constructed in 1922 to commemorate the 39 men who enlisted in Grenoside and died fighting for their country. Then, following the Second World War, an additional 16 names were added to honour those 16 men who had died while in service. The first name on the memorial to those who lost their lives in the First World War is Walter Allott. He died at 23 years old on the 1st of July 1916, the first day of the horrible Battle of the Somme. That memorial and these structures in fields near here are grave reminders of when the wars came home to Grenoside.
However, there is a reminder of the war that is much less obvious and only really known by the locals for what it really is.
Located towards the eastern side of Grenoside Woods, this deep crater is known locally as the Bomb Hole. Now, the story goes that with Sheffield being such a prominent target for the Luftwaffe, Grenoside and other areas near to it were also the victims of aerial assault. There are two theories of how this crater came to be. The first one is that it was the result of a bomb being dropped from a German aircraft, while others maintain that it was actually the result of a V1 flying bomb. There are supposedly other craters like this in this woods and ones nearby as well. It just goes to show that Grenoside was not only impacted by Sheffield's industry, but it was also a victim of the war thanks to its location as well.
But there's more history to these woods than just the Second World War.
Now, when we think of woods, we don't always think history. Yet this green area of Grenoside has seen its fair share of stories, including tragedies. In 1875, for example, 47-year-old Thomas Nealon drowned in Wood Pond here in Grenoside Woods. Then, in 1933, fires tore through the Chapel Green area, including where we are now, and extended as far as Tankersley Golf Course and Thorpe Hesley. It's so strange to me that areas that people walk through now have no idea of the events that have once unfolded right beneath their feet, and we don't even know the half of them.
Nowadays, the site is used for walking and is full of wonderful nature.
There have actually been woods here for over 700 years, and Greno Woods has been a nature reserve since the 1600s. In the 1800s, it was considered a lovely place for people to come and go for a walk, not just from Grenoside, but from Sheffield and beyond. Today, it is a fantastic place where people can come and walk their dogs, or even go on a bike ride, as this is home to one of the many bike trails in and around the Sheffield area. With a total area of 178 hectares, it is also the home to a lot of wildlife, ranging from insects to critters to birds. It just goes to show that Grenoside not only has a fantastic industrial heritage, but there is also a wonderful place like this one where you can come and be one with nature.
There is more to Grenoside than the industry or nature. There is the community, the people. This includes the local sword dancers. Sword dancing has been a tradition here for over 150 years and includes a fake beheading of the captain at the start. Then there's also the women of the community.
So I started working here part-time when my daughter was about 2. I wanted a part-time job and I came here, and now I'm a full-time member of staff. And I've been here now 24 years. The centre's been here for 41 years. We started off just doing woodland treks, and then we built an arena, and it's gone from there really. It's lovely because I'm myself now, I'm getting second generation riders. So I'll have grown women walk in the office and go, Zoe, you taught me how to ride, and they're bringing the kids, you know, which is absolutely lovely. Makes me feel really old, but it's nice to see the generations coming through. So it was started 41 years ago by a local lady who lives in Grenoside, and she lived here, and she started doing woodland treks for children. She was leading 4 ponies up the woods every day. And then these children then started asking for lessons, so then an arena was built and we started from lessons, and then it's all like went from there. We are one of the biggest centres in Sheffield. The COVID was obviously tough, but we did Santa rides during COVID, and that was lovely because not many places were doing it because we could do it outdoors, and the faces on the children were just absolutely magical. We were all crying every time the kids were seeing Santa. That was a lovely memory in quite a harsh time.
I had my first child in September 20 and a little girl. Obviously it was during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, so all there was to do was to walk around the park for about the first year of her life. And then as she got old enough to start to use the playground equipment, she enjoyed it, but I noticed that it was quite tatty, it was quite old. And as we visited other local parks, I thought that it wasn't as modern as those or as interesting. So I made some inquiries with the council and found that the equipment is decades old, and they unfortunately don't have any funding to replace it. They have money to maintain things if they're unsafe or if they're broken, but they will never replace it for new. So there had previously been a Friends of Grenoside Park who raised money to have the skate park, which is just behind me, put in. But they disbanded after they'd reached that goal. So I asked around, and there was an appetite for doing some fundraising to get some new playground equipment. So along with some other parents, we set up a new Friends of Grenoside Park. Well, the overall aim is to have a new playground. That's definitely the main goal of the project. So the idea is that the new playground will be the equipment will be more modern, it will be more challenging for children. It will be more inclusive because the playground currently doesn't have any inclusive play equipment in it. And it will be a much better hub for people in the village to meet and for families to meet each other and make friends, essentially. I think the Woods is one that draws people at the moment from outside Grenoside to Grenoside. That's why we're hoping that the park could be a bit of a better asset for the village, because people are coming to Grenoside to use the Woods. It's really popular with dog walkers, it's really popular with cyclists and horse riders, so it would be nice if they could also explore other parts of the village, which would include the playground as well.
With industrial areas, the story of the women can often go ignored. But here at Grenoside, they played such a pivotal role in the community that their stories have to be told. Here at Grenoside, there's so much heritage and community spirit that all the stories here, the women's, the workers and the rest, must all be preserved.
Grenoside, with its history of nature, industry and fantastic women, has a story that helped contribute to South Yorkshire and beyond. It's a wonderful rural retreat, a lovely place for people to live, and also a very valuable industrial neighbour to Sheffield. It is its own village. It's more than just a suburb. It has its own story, its own community, and its own history to be proud of.